Do, 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 do. Welcome to the Friends with Benefits podcast, a business podcast about revenue-generating partnerships, not a podcast about business time with friends. We're your co-hosting couple. I'm Jason.
And I'm Sam. Welcome to the show, friends.
All right, welcome back to the Friends with Benefits podcast. We are cruising here, having so much fun doing this. Sam, it's great to have you back in the house, back in the podcast again.
I live here.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, you're just not in the room anymore. It's weird when you're not in the room working with us. Man, I am particularly excited about today's episode. We've got the infamous Mike Stalker on the show. No stranger to the partnership community. Probably mentor to many. We've all learned from Mike. Probably got lots of playbooks of Mike's. Mike was actually one of the first people that I met in the partnership community, and has been a huge help to not only me, but I believe to yourself. Been at places, some small places like, Facebook, now called Meta, whatever that is. Marketo, Vidyard, Rollworks, now CallRail. Good Lord, all the who's who of partner program leaders. I'm going to stop talking now. So, Mike, welcome to the Friends with Benefits podcast.
Hey, thanks so much. Jason, I always think of you as Yarby, though. So yeah, I may call you Yarby, but I'm talking about Jason.
Yeah, it's fine. My own father once told me I should change my name to Yarby, so it works.
I'm the only person that calls him Jason, I think. So you're good.
And is that when he's in trouble or
all the time?
All the time. Okay.
Refuses to use Yarby, just will not do it. Like, it's from the very beginning, like when we were dating, she was like, nope, not gonna do it. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Great to be here.
Love it, man. I'm so glad to have you on the show again. Like, we go back probably, like, I can remember getting noodles with you in San Francisco, I think in 2018. We sat down and spent a couple hours together, showed me around the Rollworks office. I've still got a mug somewhere from there, and just really appreciate the friendship over the years and the time you spent with the Yarby family.
Hey, you two are some of my favorite people in the industry. Not just saying that because I'm here on the podcast, but seriously, I think you two are awesome. I love all the interactions that we've had together over the years. 5+ years. It's that's a long time that we've known each other, and
in software years, that's like 50 years, isn't it?
That's right. It's kind of like dog years, right? It's like multiple years.
Yeah, it exceeds that of dog years. The time frame does.
Partnership years, it's even longer because yeah.
We were like the first two in the space, I think. No, I'm kidding.
That's right. And then Sam came along and like showed us all how to do it, right? So
no, well, I learned from you just as much. You were one of the first people that showed me the way too. So, Mike, we like to start the show a little bit with a odd question, but in theme with the show. So, in the context of partnerships, what does Friends with Benefits mean to you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'm going to talk a little bit about it later, I think. But what it means to me, Friends with Benefits, is just like what we talked about. We've known each other 5 years. You two are some of the people that I enjoy working with the most. I consider you friends, right? We started off as like work colleagues, but now like I have both of you. I can text both of you. I can Slack both of you. We chat about all kinds of different things, right? We're not just work colleagues. We can bounce ideas off each other. We can help each other when we need it. And so when I think of Friends with Benefits, it's really like, for 5 years, we've known each other like that. You become friends, like you really become friends. And then the benefit is just like you become part of this network of people that I trust and people that I can ask questions from, that I could ask help from. And you can ask me for help, and we know each other. We build what most people in the industry are now calling trust, like the equity of trust. Like, guess what? Like, that's what it is, right? And that's what I think of when I think of Friends with Benefits. So,
love it.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, and I can really appreciate that too, because you and I have had multiple calls that that exceed that of just work. They've almost become like slight therapy sessions and just coach each other through different scenarios and help each other out, how to do this, when to do that, what to look for, kind of thing. So can appreciate that answer. So let's jump right into the good stuff. I've been seeing, you on some podcasts lately, some articles, some speaking gigs, and you're talking about these 4 lenses for partners. So let's quickly break those down and get into a few topics of those. What do those 4 lenses look like to you?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. I just joined a new job, and I was trying to think of a way that I could quickly talk about the impact of partnerships. I think we always get this question. It's like, what's the impact of partnerships? And so I try to boil it down. I actually went and I was for a hike up in the Stanford Hills. There's the Dish. If any of you have been in the Bay Area, there's a Dish. You can hike up to it. And I was thinking about this. I was like, okay, partners can impact in a lot of ways, but a lot of times people miss these things. So for doing it the last 10 or 15 years in my career, I said there are 4 kind of main lenses that I landed on, which is the first one is showing up in market. So through partnerships and through partner co-marketing, you can show up more in market together. So it's through all the stuff that we can do, blog posts and webinars and case studies and all that good stuff, right? And who does that align with? That aligns internally with your CMO, right? You can become a good friend of your CMO, and they should always be a good friend of the partnership team. So showing up more in market. The second one is product capabilities, right? Improving the product capabilities. So through partner integrations, we actually add capabilities, right? Your tool can only do so much. You're not going to be able to build everything, right? So if you build these integrations to other systems, it allows you to have a broader solution set. So improving your product capabilities, broader solution set. And who does that align with? That aligns with your chief product officer, right? You can sell a broader solution. It gives them more capabilities, right? The next one, the next lens. So second lens, product capabilities and broader solution set. Third lens is sourced revenue. So this is the hot one right now in the market, because it's all about how much sourced revenues can partners bring. But that's not the only one. I want people to realize that partner source is really important, but it's not the only one. It's these other ones that are also important. But partner sourced aligns with your CRO. So I now report to the CRO. He comes to me and he's like, Mike, how are you going to get partners to drive sourced revenue? How are you going to help feed the sales team? Because those are better deals that are coming in. They close faster. They're larger. I think you all had what was his name? Mike Davis. On previously, and he said a lot of partner people say they feel things. I know for a fact. I've got the metrics. I am like the marketing team. so Mike Davis. I am like the marketing team. I've got it down to a thing. I know that the close one rate for partner source deals is much higher, right? I know that they close faster. I've got the metrics and the real numbers to prove it. But that's the third lens, is partner sourced, right? Again, aligns with your CRO. And then the last one is really around retention and renewal. So based on the number of integrations that a customer has in place, so partner integrations included, right? You actually see more sticky customers that renew at higher rates. So their retention rates go up. And for any SaaS company, that's gold. Every single percentage point increase in retention is potentially hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars for a company, right? Depending on your revenue scale. So who does that align with? That aligns with your customer success, your CRO, chief customer officer, those roles. So 4 lenses: showing up in market, product capabilities being improved and expanded, sourced revenue, and improved retention renewal rates. If you think about all 4 of those and you look at those lenses for each partnership, that's how you go to your company and you get alignment and you show the impact of partnerships. And I think those encompass most of our impact.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to articulate it. And as you can imagine, Sam and I have some really nerdy conversations, and we were talking about this topic last night about sitting in the middle of all the BUs, right, all the business units, and hey, that's the fun part of the job, right, getting to sit in. But really, having to sit in the middle of those and understand exactly why you sit there and how you're influencing and impacting those business units is more important, right? I think some people don't understand the value they bring to all those organizations. They're thinking just revenue, because to your point, it's the hot topic. It's the gold nugget right now. But really, if you think about it, what most SaaS companies are focused on, really, coming from some of the orgs we've been in, is retention. And so we often overlook how to work with the CS, and some of the hottest opportunities especially in the last role I was in, the biggest impact I made was bringing partners into marketing. So you have a lot of opportunity to influence.
Mike, I remember one of the very first things, okay, maybe it was like the 10th thing that we talked about, but you at the time were really rallying for partnerships to report to the CEO. And it's for all these reasons we just talked about. Because if you do sit under, say, the CRO, then your metrics are more aligned to sourced revenue, influenced revenue, et cetera. So I find it interesting that you're now reporting to the CRO, but you're still so focused on the holistic approach that a partner can bring to the organization. I have a lot of questions, and we are kind of going on a tangent here, but do your metrics only revolve around sourced revenue now, or are you still working with marketing metrics, product metrics? How are you really validating that?
It's a really great question. I still believe that partnerships, the best home for partnerships is still directly into a CEO or a president because of the cross-functional nature of it. But here at CallRail, I am very fortunate that I have a CRO. Name is Mario Smith. He actually was previously the CRO over at Admiral, is now the CRO here at CallRail. He's what I call a modern CRO. So he actually understands that the modern approach to growing a business and to drive growth. And that is not just through adding salespeople, or that he understands that partnerships is a really important and efficient lever for growth, right? But he also understands that it's not just about partner sourced revenue. So I think it does vary in the CRO type that you get, because I also we'll probably get to this later, but I also just interviewed at a bunch of companies, and I did meet with several CROs that don't get it, right? Yep. And those were tough conversations, right? And so I really think it's who you get in terms of that, in that CRO role can make a difference. But I would say that there is always a focus on, how do you drive partner sourced revenue? Like, how can that be a meaningful pillar in the overall picture, right? So you are a contributor, you are a slice of the pie, but there's also knowledge that you contribute across the different areas. I hope that kind of answers your question there.
Totally. And I do think that this all comes together because it's building alignment internally, but truly partners are an integral part of the go-to-market team, which includes marketing, includes sales. So building those partnerships, and full stop, if your sales leader and your marketing leader aren't aligned, there's a big problem. So, I think you really do talk about it here, and we can get into it later, but in your interviews, making sure you're really understanding there is alignment, or there's at least appetite for it. So as a leader who clearly understands the value of internal partnerships, we've talked about this here, and the alignment between these organizations. Say somebody, a new partner leader, comes from sales. How do they lean across the aisle and to talk to product to start building that relationship? If that's like they don't understand this language, this is a new venue for them, how do you build those relationships?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think that the four lenses I just talked about actually give you a framework. So if you're coming from sales, you're going to be really good at the partner sourced angle. Like, you're going to get that. It's a natural motion for you, right? But you're probably not going to be as familiar with doing co-marketing exercises, or bringing those opportunities and the metrics and why they're important, or the impact on retention renewal. Those are not going to be your forte. They're just not the areas that you have the great experience on. And so what I always recommend is that you actually go and you meet with the leaders of each of those different functions. So meet your CMO, meet your chief customer officer, meet with the various teams, meet with your partner marketing leader, like meet with a couple of the folks to go across the aisle, really understand what are their goals, and then start to say, okay, how can I help you hit those goals? Like, what is my ability to impact your metrics and your goals, and then incorporate that into what you do? And that's why I talk about the lenses, because you can say, all right, what aligns with your CMO? Well, maybe they have MQLs and SALs and all the things that come through marketing events and activities. So, okay, me as a partner leader, I'm going to work to try and initiate or get new partner marketing opportunities. Yeah, you can turn it over to the partner marketing team, but like you're going to try and start those conversations because you know it will help your marketing team. So what I think it is it's really like being collaborative, going and meeting with them, understanding their goals, what their priorities are, and then seeing how you can actually serve them and like integrate into what they're doing. And I think that that's the important piece, right? You can't just be in a silo. I think that's the biggest the takeaway here is you can't be in a silo. You have to be collaborative. You have to understand the goals of these other teams. Otherwise, you're not going to get their support when you need it, right?
Yeah.
Totally. I love what you said too about integrating with what they're doing. And I think that's crucial because a lot of times partner professionals can come in and it's met with a little bit of tension because it looks like another thing to do. But if you can really integrate, then you become, as we've talked about, a value add. And then you can make your ask after you've built that trust. So I think that's really, really great.
And that kind of ties into to like what our friends Jared and Isaac are pushing, and myself as well, is like Nearbound being fully embedded into your go-to-market strategies. Really the only way, I think, in my experience, and love to hear yours, and how you can actually scale a program, right? Because in most of my cases, I've had 1, 2, or 3 people on the team. They can only do so much, but if you really embed into all these business units, like you can scale in a hurry.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I could touch on that really briefly, like,
please.
I think Jared talks about this. I think Asher Matthew and partnership leaders, I think a lot of folks talk about this, which is partnership should not be a silo. It should not be a team off on its own. It should be integrated into everything that all the other teams are doing. And I think, I don't know if I've heard it phrased this way, but that's what Nearbound is in many ways to me, is that partnerships are embedded and in everything, and partner data is being able to be leveraged across everything to help drive the outcomes that all the teams are looking for, right? Not just the partnership team, or not just the sales team, or not just the marketing team. It's all of the teams.
That's it. It's 100% it. It's how does, product utilize the partner data, CS, marketing, sales, everyone, and drive the company forward, as a result. So last question on these lenses, and we'll move on. You're coming into a new org. Where do you have is it prioritizing where you start? Do you find yourself typically, kind of infiltrating one camp more versus another, or where do you start?
Yeah. So I just started a new role. I am 3.5, 4 months in. So I joined in March. And that first 90 days, I'll share kind of what I've done. There's some tactical items that I did starting in a new role. I think if I can boil it down to 6, this is kind of what I would say. So the first one is meet your team. So really meet the team, hear whatever they want to share. Sometimes they want to talk to you about whatever, the history of a certain partner. They don't like a partner, or they, whatever. Sit and listen to them, meet them, be a sponge and absorb everything, right? Because you'll pick up things. It'll help you kind of get up to speed, right? So the first one is just meet your team, hear whatever they want to share, be that sponge and absorb everything. Second one is meet each leader. So go and I mentioned this earlier, meet your CRO, meet your CMO, meet your CFO, believe it or not, your product leader, customer success leader, RevOps leader. Like, go through your E-team, your executive team, and understand what they care most about, because that'll help you align. And then you can speak their language, right? Third one, is just understand each partner category, the history that each of the partners have, the pros and cons of each partner. So a lot of times there's like partners, hey, this one's really great at doing co-marketing, but man, they're really terrible at follow-up, or the person there is difficult to work with, like that kind of stuff. Understand the pros and cons of each partner.
Do you have like set of questions that you like to run through when you come in and start working with new partners?
That's a good question. I do. I mean, I have a whole template for when we evaluate a new partner. We go through each like first call you go through and you see like, what are the potential use cases? What's our ICP that we ask between the partners? How many total customers do they have? We typically connect with a cross-beam reveal, see what I call it the partnership TAM. What's the addressable market of the partnership, right? What's the overlap counts and that? Like, what do they like doing? What does their go-to-market process look like, right? So I have a typical one. You launch an integration, you do a press release, you do a blog post, you do a case study, you do all that kind of stuff. Like, are they willing to do all of those co-marketing things that are so important for a partnership? So there's a whole bunch of stuff. I've got it kind of templatized out that in that first call, you try and suss out, are they willing to do some of these things, right?
Perfect. Beautiful. Love it. Sorry, number 4.
Yeah, no, yeah. So the third one though is just understanding each partner, the partner categories, the pros and cons, the impact that they bring. Some partners, remember the 4 lenses, some partners are good at driving improved product capabilities and maybe co-marketing, but they're not good at partner sourced revenue. It's good to know that, right? Like, because then you won't go to them about things like, hey, bring me some referrals or whatever, right? All right. So the 4th one that I do, again, I said 6 here. So get close to your metrics and be friends with RevOps.
Amen.
So yes. So
best friends.
Best friends with RevOps, right? So I spoke at Crossbeam Supermoto conference, whatever, a few weeks ago, on the 10 metrics that partner executives should know. And I'd say add me on LinkedIn, by the way, if anyone's interested. When those get published, you'll see it. I'll post it. But the 10 metrics.
Highly recommend that.
Yeah, 10 metrics that partner execs should know. Really, like, think about what those metrics are, and have. So the fifth tip. So 4th tip is have a meeting. 4th tip is get close to the metrics and get close to RevOps. 5th one is have a meeting on the metrics that you want to track. So what can you track now, and what do you need to track in order to run the business? So I came in here to CallRail. CallRail had a lot. I was very thankful. CallRail had a lot established. So we could track partner influence, partner source, all that kind of good stuff. We have great metrics here, but maybe there are other metrics, things around retention renewal. Like, what does it look like if it's a partner source lead or partner influence lead? What's the retention renewal rates for those customers? There's some that, like, you may want to look at that maybe your company doesn't have. So go through that exercise.
Yeah, that's where becoming friends with the RevOps team is really going to pay its advantages.
Exactly.
Hey, I need some more stuff to my dashboard. Can you help?
Exactly. That's right. And Sam, tell us.
I was just going to say, you can also learn to run your own reports.
You don't want me running reports.
Easy. We were just talking about this before the show, and we're already throwing daggers out.
Yes. I tend to break things. They always tell me, Mike, make a copy, please.
Yes. Same.
So thank you to all the RevOps professionals that I worked with in my career for dealing with me.
God, I love
all
them.
these years. Okay. The 6th one is really align on the metrics, right? So, and the impact of partnerships. So again, along the lines of those lenses, like, align on those metrics. And so I added to that is, like, have a mission statement for your partnerships. So this is something that's super important. We're going to probably chat about this, I think, but, like, I was an entrepreneur. So I start everything with, like, why am I here? Why do I have a partnership team in general? And what I said, like, CallRail, I'll share ours. CallRail's overall company mission is to help companies market with confidence, right? That's our overall mission. So our partner team mission is we help businesses market with confidence. So you hear that, same as our corporate one, by providing a best-in-class ecosystem of agency, strategic, and tech partners to help them better leverage CallRail to grow their business.
Nice.
You see how that ties in? So, and
Absolutely.
It also gives the partner team, like, we all go, yeah, that's our mission. That's what we do. We help with that.
It's so smart too, because then you can establish goals that align to that mission, and everything you're working towards, supports that mission.
That's right.
I love that. It's something that's not often talked about.
Yeah, and when you go out and you talk to other teams, so I presented to our engineering teams, you tell them, this is what we do. This is how we impact the businesses. We build best-in-class ecosystem, blah, 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 right?
I love that too, because it helps you. I mean, one of the biggest parts of partnership, and we have talked about this, but is evangelizing internally what you do. And so if you can articulate it clearly, not only for yourselves, but in a way that others can understand, it removes the gray area a little bit.
Yep. Sam, you nailed it. That's where those 4 lenses have made it very handy, just to say, this is how we impact. Yeah. So I think you all get it. You've been doing this a long time, but you got to make it simple for the other teams in the company to understand how partnerships are important for them also.
Yeah, because it hasn't been done before. It requires a lot of change management. And if you can, clearly and simply articulate, like, what you're trying to accomplish with them and surround it with a mission and some goals, like, that makes that change management that much easier to get behind. And because most times they don't want to get behind it.
I mean, I think that was so helpful. So for anybody who's starting a new role or who has been in a role for a while, like go re-listen to that, because what a great like framework to start. And the other thing I loved about what you just said there is, first of all, you start with listen. So you don't come in and say, here's what we're going to do. But you also start to own these relationships as your own. You get to know the partners, you understand what makes them tick, what their goals are, and how it's exactly what we talked about with the internal partners. I think that's crucial. So a lot of people just hit the ground running before they do the groundwork of getting to know and own these relationships. So you did mention it, and I do kind of want to go here, but you were an entrepreneur earlier in your career, and you've also been a CS leader. And I feel like this experience has to have an impact. In your opinion, how does this impact the way you approach partnerships?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was an entrepreneur. I founded and sold actually 3 companies. I had one back in 2008 to 2010. We had 11 or 12 employees. It was a SaaS company way back then. That was pretty early for SaaS. We had a successful outcome, right? And then also at Marketo, I ran customer success teams. So we had a pretty good sized customer success team pretty early on. So 2012, 2013, I ran customer success. I had a great leader who left the company, and I was kind of tapped to head up the team for a short amount of time. And I do think that really impacted how I think of partnerships. And so let me talk about entrepreneur first, and I'll get into customer success and that. So as an entrepreneur, you really learn to wear many hats. So my title was CEO. I had a fancy business card that said CEO. It was kind of cool. I was like 27, 28. It was very cool. Business cards were still a thing. So I was CEO, but I also was the only salesperson, only front-facing person. So only customer success, even product. We didn't have product people. It was me and engineers, basically. And what happens?
Everything.
That's right. And what happens is you have to wear those many hats. You have to think of all the different constituents. You have to think of all these different things. So I think a good partnership exec needs to almost act like a mini CEO. So Jen Spencer, she's the awesome CEO over at SmartBug, one of HubSpot's top agency partners.
She's great.
Yeah, when I was out looking for a role, Jen introduced me to a CRO at a company she knew. And she described me as Mike is like a mini CEO. And that's really what you need as a partner leader, because you have to drive each partnership forward almost like it's a business or a product line, right? Like each partnership is its own little business that you're trying to drive and grow, right? And so I think a good partnership exec needs to act like that and take ownership, think about driving and doing that.
100%. And it goes back to those 4 lenses as well. Like
Totally.
in order to be able to, speak to product, marketing, CS, and sales, you've got to understand product, marketing, CS, and sales. And, as such, you've got to think like a CEO, entrepreneur, and kind of starting up your own business within a business. Like we talk about that quite a bit.
That's right. And partnerships now are being looked at as driving revenue. So we have to think about ways that like you're almost starting a business and you're looking at a partnership P&L and you're like, okay, is this going to drive $200K this quarter, and next quarter it's got to drive $400K, and then it's going to be $1 million. So you got to look at that in your contribution. You almost drive it like a business, and you just got to look at the growth of it and these kind of things. As a customer success leader at Marketo, I was always intrigued by the impact of integrations, partner integrations on retention renewal. So back in 2012 and 2013, I've been talking about this for maybe 10 years now. But now, look, so when I first talked about it, people were like, Mike, you're crazy. There's no way that we can get that data. Like, no, go away. That's going to be too hard. Seriously, I had people tell me, go away. That's going to be too hard. Maybe in a few years. Someone told me that once. Maybe in a few years we can get there. Well, now fast forward 10 years, we are, and I'd say there's a lot of real data from many different companies. Stan Masuris had some stuff on this. A bunch of others have talked about this, that there is a correlated increase in retention renewal rates based on each integration that's in place, right?
Yep.
I just joined CallRail, and I was interviewing, and the CEO won me. He won me over. Out of his mouth, he said, Mike, we know that for every partner integration that's set up, the renewal and retention rates increase. I was like, all right, sold, done. Where do I sign?
We know the way to Mike's heart now. You hear it here first.
where do I sign? Like, the CEO gets it. Like, I don't have to convince him of this. He already understood it because the data is
That's
already,
incredible.
this is now something that's becoming more accepted and understood, right? And so, for example, here at CallRail, we actually see that customers using our HubSpot integration have a churn rate that's 1/3 of that those that don't have it. Right?
Wow.
So,
Wow.
like, that's great. And by the way, our churn rates are very, very like low. Like, we have great retention. But imagine if they're using just that HubSpot integration, it's 1/3 less of our baseline, which is just
the one.
phenomenal. Just the one, yeah. And now, if you start to layer on additional ones, it's kind of a step function, right? Like,
Totally.
2, it goes up a bit, 3. And if you get the nirvana where someone's using 4 or 5 integrations, by the way, they're never going to leave you. Your ARPU is going to be really high. Your retention renewal rates are going to be really high. Your net recurring revenue, NRR, is going to be really high. So, yeah, so that's kind of 2 ways. So entrepreneur and then customer success, how it's impacted kind of my thinking in terms of partnerships. And the last thing I'd say is, in customer success, you really got to think about the value that you're driving for customers. So how are they using your own product to get value? So that way they retain and renew. So what you bring to partnerships is, what does each partner integration, what value does that bring? You can build an integration. If it doesn't bring any value, it's worthless, right? Like, it's just a connector or something. It's not providing real business value. So I always try and bring that lens of, like, what kind of value is the end customer going to get through this partnership and this integration?
And what are you looking for to define that value?
Yeah, there's all kinds of things. Like, is it saving the end customer time? Is it saving them time? Is it helping them do their job better? Are they able to get better insights from it? Are they able to move faster? Are they able to grow their business more, or drive more business? All those different things that an integration can help someone do, right? You just got to look at those lenses and have that mindset.
I love that approach too, because it's more of an outcome. Here's what you will see as a result of this integration, not like, this fills our product hole, so it makes perfect sense. And the TAM for this integration is large, but it brings it a step further of why it really matters to the end user.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's why I always say, like, when you release an integration, you should always take, like, you have a product roadmap slot maybe 6 months later to take the feedback that you get from your customers, your early adopters. Take that early feedback and then do a V2, a very quick fast follow of a V2 with that feedback from the first 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have a much better integration, and then you probably won't have to touch it for a couple of years, right? But you got to take those first 6 months and pull a lot of feedback in, get the case studies. Where are they seeing value? What needs to be tweaked within the integrations to give more value, right?
That's great.
And do that, yeah.
How have you effectively communicated the value of these integrations and these partners that matter to the CS org? And I'm sure, like, your experience in CS can better help you, extrapolate that to them and how it matters to them. But what have you seen work?
It's a really good question. I often find that the relationship between a partner team and a customer success team is one of the most difficult to crack.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's why I'm asking the question.
Selfishly, we're asking.
I seriously, it is one of the most difficult to crack, and I'll tell you why. Customer success people are bogged down with day-to-day management of customers. There's always someone that has a challenge or problem or an issue that they need to solve. They're constantly, it's still this way, but they're constantly in firefighting mode and that. What I think is, partnerships really allows a customer success person to be proactive and become a trusted advisor. And here's how. So when you come out with a new partner integration, oftentimes those are not charged for, right? Those are just additional value adds. And so what I've tried to do with customer success is a couple things. I've tried to tell them that they can become a trusted advisor by sharing new integrations with their end customers. They become a trusted advisor. Hey, let me share this really cool new thing with you that doesn't cost you anything more in most cases, and it's going to help you do your job better. So you become a trusted advisor. The second way you get to customer success is you explain this dynamic that I just talked about, which is for each integration that's in place, your retention renewal goes up. You really just have to hammer that into their minds, that the work that they do and how they help you by engaging with partners and telling customers about integrations and that kind of thing will benefit them, right?
Yeah.
Like, it does take a little bit of time, and they've got to invest a little bit. But I have seen it time and time again where I've had customer success leaders as well as individuals come to me and say, wow, like we were going to lose this customer. They were not going to renew with us. But once they started using that integration, they started seeing more value, like they decided that they're going to renew with us for another year. And that buys time that then you can get them into a more successful spot. So really it's around those two things, right? Help them be a trusted advisor by giving them tools that they can share with the customer. And then also like help them with their main goal, which is retention and renewal, by getting those integrations set up. They will see NRR, net recurring revenue, and retention renewal rates go up. And that's what they're gold and bonused on, right? In most cases.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. How long do you think you can expect to see change coming from that particular org? Because, to your point, it is hard to get their trust at times, especially when it comes to partners. But are you looking at 6 months, 18 months?
Yeah, I think it takes time. It takes about a year, to be honest. But I think you can get in and you can find champions early on. This is what I like to do across all the different work. By the way, not just customer success. You find this in sales as well. You find this in marketing. Find your people that are willing and they're eager and they think partnerships are cool and they understand that value prop, that how partnerships can help them. Find those people, set them up for success, make examples out of them and be like, look at how awesome so-and-so is doing because they did this, right? So those pocket stories, those examples, and then those champions are the people that you want to do quickly, right? Before the full change might happen. But that is organizational change, because you start to get these early people to show success. And then the rest of the org is like, hey, I want to be like that.
Yep.
And then you'll start to see the change that you're looking for.
So
nice.
I think that's great. Let's shift gears a little bit here. Many listeners probably can relate to this, but it's a bit of a crazy time in the tech space. You personally were just affected by this. Can you talk about your layoff, how that relationships you've built over your career have helped you get through that, and kind of what that journey looked like for you as you've now very successfully landed at CallRail? So congrats.
Thank you. So yes, unfortunately, I was caught up in a rift back in February, like many of us, and when I was at Rollworks. So it was actually the first time in my career that it actually happened to me. It was really kind of surprising because I felt that I was delivering real meaningful impact, revenue. I was driving revenue, a lot of revenue, and I built real numbers. And I had just been promoted to SVP of partnerships only a few months before, and I built a solid team. I had really great people on the team. So those are typically the things that you'd look at and you'd be like, well, okay, check, right? Built a great team, driving revenue, all these things. So it was a little bit of a shock. It had never happened in my career. And I was a little bummed, but my grandma actually always taught me that when one door closes, another opens for a reason, right? And so
gotta love grandma.
Grandma's got wisdom, right? She's turning 90 in January 1st. So she knows what's up. She's lived a great life. And she said, when one door closes, a door opens for a reason. And so I celebrate my time that I had at Rollworks. I learned a lot, got to meet great folks like yourselves, got to work with you closely. But another opportunity. So talk about like another door opening, right? I've been so excited to join CallRail. I told you our CEO in the interview wowed me, knowing retention, the impact of partnerships. I was like, oh, wow. CallRail has 6 integrations, over 7,000 agency partners. Right? Like crazy. The company is super successful, and we have exceptional leaderships. Our CEO, CRO, CMO, product leadership, all of that is great, and they're super supportive of partnerships. In fact, the CEO slacked me this morning. I'm not joking. Slacked me this morning and said, we have a huge partnership Slack channel. That must make you really happy. Like everyone's in there and engaged and all of this, right? So I couldn't be happier. But that's an example of when one door closes, another door opens. And so tying it back to friends with benefits, and I talked about this right at the very beginning, the relationships built throughout my career were so instrumental in finding a role. So I had dozens of discussions with CEOs, CROs. I had a couple of offers pretty quickly after leaving. So that was through really diligent and intentional reach outs to people within my network, people that I trusted, people that I cared about. I actually create a spreadsheet. And this is kind of crazy, but I create a spreadsheet, put each company name, put my last contact date with them. What were the notes? What's the next step? And I'm very diligent about updating that. My days when I was not working, when I was out of a job, were as full as a day of when I'm actually working. Every half hour there was something happening. I think, Jason, you just went through something very similar.
I kept saying it was a full-time job, looking for a full-time job.
That's right. But you have to be diligent about it. But then, the friends with benefit things come in that I had so many intros, I had so many referrals, I had so many recommendations that I was so extremely thankful and appreciative for, right? I mentioned Jen Spencer, SmartBug CEO. She's a very busy woman. She's an exceptional CEO. She took time to actually introduce me, I think, to a couple different folks. She didn't have to do that, but she did it. And I was so appreciative that people like that I had known and built trust with and built a relationship with were willing to take a little bit of time out of their day and did that, right? So that's something that I would say is the friends with benefits and what can you do? Your network is your most valuable thing as a partnership exec. And stop.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do think, just really quickly to comment on that, and then I'll pass it to you, Jay, but that goes to you too, Mike. I mean, you care about your network. As being a part of your network, I know that. And so, for somebody who is listening, that's not just a show up on LinkedIn one day and ask a bunch of people. These things have to be nurtured, and you have to show up time and time again. And you do that, Mike. So good on you, and congrats again on the new role. So sorry to cut you off, Jay.
Yeah. No, you're fine. Actually, I'll add to that. It's I've unfortunately been part of this twice now. The first one, to bring this friends with benefits full circle, you're the reason I landed my last job. So you reached out to the network either got word, got busy, you made introduction, I landed that job as a result. So it comes full circle.
Example A.
Yeah, that's we'll just end it there. What advice do you have to someone who's going through this? Is if it can happen to you, you were one that was oh shit, wow. If it can happen to Mike, it can happen to anybody. And so you went through it, obviously, hopefully learned some things as a result, and you kind of saw, how one door closes and one door opens. What advice do you have to others that might be listening that are going through the same thing to do?
Yeah, I think it starts with your own mindset. So remember that layoffs often don't have anything to do with you or your performance. Okay. I worked at Meta. Meta just went through huge rounds of it's their year of efficiency. They've let go a lot of people. It was not due to performance. Some of their top performers that have been there a long time that got exceeds expectations, which is their highest rating for many years, were let go. And it had nothing to do with them. It was just that they had to go through and find people. This happens a lot recently. It's unfortunate. So what I want to tell people is don't let it get to you. Don't let it impact your personal confidence or your own self-worth. If you do, you'll spiral down. I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people get into this where they'll lose months because they're just off track and their mindset is not good. Don't let it get to you. It really, in most cases, has nothing to do with you, right? Also remember that your relationships with your partners, your network is that most valuable asset in finding a new role. Most of us, I think the last several roles that I've had have been through my network. I barely, I don't think I did any kind of cold reach out type stuff. It was more through the network, what you find. So don't be afraid to politely ask for help. You know, don't be afraid. And then the other thing is post on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
People are afraid to post on LinkedIn. They don't want to seem vulnerable, but you know what? That's how you let people know that, hey, I'm looking, I could use some help, and you will see that your network rallies for you. In fact,
100%.
Those posts that people do get hundreds of engagements and hundreds of comments. And you know what? Someone might take the moment to introduce you into a role that you're looking for, right? So, and then you land.
Absolutely. One of us on this podcast had to convince me to put up the post for myself because I was kind of that same boat. I was I don't want to put that post out. But it was Sam. Sam's the one who encouraged me to do it. Made me put the post out, and once I did, it blew my mind, man. It really it was humbling to see how the network and the community got to work and started helping, and the amount of intros that I got out of it was great. And, to your point, it wouldn't have happened without like the relationships that I've, worked hard to build and maintain. And they all come to your side to help out.
Let's speak about specific types of relationships here for a second. I have to assume the answer is yes, but coming up through Marketo, Facebook, etc., did you have mentors? And one question that I always am curious about mentors is, did you formalize that? Like, did you actually go and say, hey, will you be my mentor? Or what did that look like if you did have them?
Yeah. So I recommend that everyone identify a mentor type figure that you can learn from, who can push you to learn and grow. And really, that's their role, is to push you to learn and grow. So they push you out of the nest. They help you get better, right? So at Facebook,
absolutely.
I had people like Ilesh Patel, who's now a leader at LinkedIn. Ilesh is great if anyone has met Ilesh. At Marketo, I had people like Amir Lindo at Big Friends Consulting. Everyone knows Amir. He's a great guy. The best, right? One of the best people out there. Robin Bordoli, who was my actual formal mentor at Marketo. Robin and I actually did a somewhat formal setup where I'd try to bring topics or discussion points and that I'd ask advice on, right? So it could be, here's something I'm struggling with, or here's something I'd like to get better at. Can you help me with this? And that's how you make it productive. What I struggle with is like when people say they want to have a mentor and then they just come and they show up.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to put the effort in. You got to put some pre-thought into it.
That's a huge piece that's so often overlooked. And like to come prepared, come with a list of questions, what do you want to learn from this person, and every time you meet, like be ready to lead and guide the conversation.
And I'll just say that's not only for mentorships, that's for everything.
Everything. Come prepared.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah. And yeah, come with a point of view, come prepared, show that you've done your homework. People will appreciate that. And they'll be more willing to give of their time and their effort and their thought for you if you come and actually put up your side of the equation. Robin was awesome because he actually pushed me outside of my comfort zone. So this is the thing, I think a lot of us get into our comfort zones, we're comfortable. This is where a mentor can really help, which is pushing you outside of the comfort zone to help you grow in your career. He did something where Marketo, we were trying to figure out B2C. Could Marketo get into B2C? There's a question of how well we actually did that, but he actually encouraged me to bring in B2C speakers to Marketo. So bringing in B2C speakers so that the rest of the company could learn more and hear those outside perspectives and that kind of thing. So that exercise of like running a program of finding a speaker, bringing them in, having a panel and session and having an audience and getting people to attend, all of that was way above and beyond my standard role, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was something that was like extra credit, right? Like, but what it did is it got me to be more comfortable with doing stuff like this, like speaking and getting in front of people. It raised my visibility in the company. It was tough at the time, but I'm super thankful. And I reflect back like, wow, thank you, Robin, for pushing me to do that, because people saw me as more of a leader because I was willing to take on something a little bit bigger, more than what my standard role was. So I would highly encourage anyone to think about a mentor. Come prepared. Think of what you want to ask for, how you want to grow, and work with them on something like that.
Do you find at this stage in your career you're still working with mentors or still have mentors?
It's a really good question. It has been harder now that I'm so many years into my career, 20 plus. You see the white in my beard.
Mm-hmm.
So it has been a little harder. I would love to find people that are further into they've maybe done things that I haven't done that I'd like to learn from. It's a little hard though once you're kind of at this level to find that. And so where I find it is through like groups like Partnership Leaders, where there's a lot of people that are at the executive level and they have different expertise. And so I may be strong in one area and have a good set of experience here, but they may have others, right? And the example I'll give is Asher Matthew and Sean Lee and we all go and get pizza lunch. Maybe some people have seen, we post on this on LinkedIn.
I'm very jealous of those LinkedIn posts. I'm tempted to fly out just for pizza one day.
Fly out for pizza lunch. Yeah. I mean, it's great. But we sit there and we nerd out on partnership stuff. And I learn something every time we go. We try and do it monthly, right? So like I don't quite have a mentor figure per se, but I have a group of people that are now at a similar level, that it's like a sounding board or a forum that like we can exchange ideas and learn from each other.
I also think we're in a really awesome position being in partnerships, because if you're in another track, call it marketing, then your leaders are, your mentors are marketing leaders. But within partnerships, as we talked about, you can go outside of our lane and find mentors in marketing, in product, in the C-suite, across those. So encouraging people to look broader than just partner leaders.
True.
Yeah.
Good point.
I do have one question that kind of factors into this, like as far as having a mentor and when we haven't discussed before. But where do you think we go from here as partner executives? Like what's next?
Glad you asked.
Within the chain of command. Mike Stocker, who's been around for ages in this partnership world.
So what do you mean? What's next? Like in terms of from a partnership leader, where do we go? Or
Yeah. As the partner function, we'll call it, gets more of a seat at the table, what does that seat look like? Are we moving? Does the VP of partnerships become a C-level? I know there's like talk of the chief ecosystem officer. That's cool, but like really, where does the VP partner exec function? What does it become? What does it mature into?
yeah, I think it's interesting. I think partner execs are like your utility baseball player. Like they could do second base, they could do third base, they could be a center fielder, right? Whatever.
Love that.
I think that we will see more chief ecosystem officers. I think that will be a more common role, that will have a seat at the C level. It's because it is distinct enough that it's enough of a role to have alongside the CRO and CMO. I could also see a lot of partnership leaders moving into a CRO role, and I think we're starting to see some of that as well, which is you've mastered one of the pillars of revenue.
Yeah.
Right. You are an important contributor of revenue. So, for example, CallRail, 40 to 45% of our revenue comes through the partner channel. That's a lot that I actually have. Right. Yeah. Awesome. Primarily through our agency efforts, but that's a big chunk of revenue. So, if in the future I wanted to pursue a path into the CRO world, potentially I could head in that direction, because I have that experience that, I have commanded commanded is a terrible term, but I have been over and leading a team that's driving a large chunk of the revenue, right? And so I could head that path. So I think it's something like that. It's like potentially a chief ecosystem officer would be ideal. And or I think there's a graduation path that you could become a CRO if that's something that you want. And then thirdly, like a COO. Partnerships are across a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if there are some partner execs that move into like a COO role.
Yeah, Sam and I have had this conversation as well, and like I completely agree. I also think there's this little unique role in the chief growth officer that's becoming a thing that we could also begin to grow into as well, and how that CGO really kind of impacts and affects multiple organizations within the company. So it's something I'm very curious about. We'll bring this in for a landing. There's one last piece that I've heard you talk about a bit that I wanted to hear from you, and that's your perspective on give to get. Like I've heard you talk about it a few times. Like you need to give to get, right? Because it removes the transactional view of partnerships. Can you talk about that just a second as we close this down?
Yeah, sure. Great way to wrap up. So look, not everything can be transactional. Be kind to people, help people. I think I tried to talk about that several times throughout our discussion today. Whether you believe in this or not, the world has a way to have karma. Good things come to good people. Good things come to good people. Say it again. Good things come to good people.
Good things come to good people.
Thank you.
I think that's our title.
All right, there you go. So a few weeks ago, I heard from 3 different people. Basically, within 1 week, I heard from 3 different people that I had made introductions for. They had all landed new jobs via those introductions. So I didn't get them the job. Like I can't take credit. I did not get them to the job. What I did was I did a simple kind act and took a moment to introduce them or recommend them. I gave them a LinkedIn review, a recommendation. There's little things, right? It didn't cost me much. It took me a few minutes, right? At most.
Nice.
No more than a few minutes. And it helped those people so much. They landed a job, they had an income, they find a purpose, they feel much more valued in their life. So the world needs more of that. Like, be generous, be kind. It doesn't cost you much. We need more of that. So it's not all transactional. Give to get, be generous. And that's a great way to kind of wrap this up with friends with benefits.
I love that.
That's fantastic. So we're gonna end with a fun question. You have a little dog whose name is Ewok, correct?
I do. Yes.
So it's a little Star Wars reference. So gonna pose this question to you. Who makes the better partner executive? Yoda or Han Solo, to keep it relevant to the Star Wars theme?
I think it's Yoda because, you got to have the Force. You got to bring the Force with you.
I love it.
Nice question. I was looking at more the grit from Han Solo, who can just go through any wall and get anything done, but the Force can just basically take care of all of it for you. It's like 4 lenses.
You can't deny that.
That's awesome. Excellent answer. Mike, this has been a lot of fun, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, Jason, Sam, Yarby, Sam, it's so nice spending time with you today.
Mike, we appreciate you so much, as does the rest of the partnership community. If by the off chance you don't know Mike, like he said, follow him on LinkedIn. You won't regret it. Mike, you truly are a friend to the Yarby family, so appreciate your time today. And that's it for today, friends. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. See y'all.
Adios. Do, 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 do.